it's a good question, because I think what you see in the biblical New Testament, and the early Christians are wrestling through this, because we have the benefit of standing 2,000 years down the road, and they've hammered out the language we use today.
Got it.
So they're wrestling through this. The Father is called Yahweh God, the Spirit is called Yahweh God, and Jesus is called Yahweh God. There's only one Yahweh. How do we figure this out? So what they do is eventually they come up with this language of being and person. Being describes what you are. Person describes who you are. This chair has being, right? It's what philosophers called ontological status, right? But it doesn't have personhood. I didn't ask its permission to sit on it.
Right.
But it does exist.
Yeah.
And so being is what you are. So God is Yahweh. And we see this in the sense that Jesus tells his disciples to go baptize in the name, onomon Greek, it's a singular. And then he says of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So he says the singular name, but then he describes three persons. And so this is the question the early church is wrestling through when they say, okay, Jesus is given the honors, the attributes, the names, the deeds, and the seat of God. It's an acronym, HANDS. The Spirit is given the honors, the attributes, the names, the deeds, and the seat of God. And the Father is given the honors, the attributes, the names, the deeds, and the seat of God. There's only one God. How do we understand this? Now, the ancient Jews actually already had a concept of this in that they weren't Unitarian fully. They understood that God is complex within his unity, and that God can rule and reign in heaven, and yet the Ark of the Covenant could still have God's presence. And we even see examples when, before Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham is met by three individuals, two that are identified as angels and one that is identified as Yahweh God. The angels go off to Sodom and Gomorrah to find Lot and his family. Abraham dialogues with Yahweh. Eventually, Abraham leaves, and then in chapter 19, in Genesis 19, it has this really interesting passage where it says that Yahweh on earth rains fire and brimstone from Yahweh in heaven. Now, you only have one Yahweh, so what's going on there?